to the Haunted Library. Tonight I'm going to be reading Casting a Shadow, so gather round, my ghouls and gals. Look, come now, come. Casting shadows. I think Joby is cheating on me, she said, rolling over in her lounge chair, her golden skin glistening with tanning oil, draping an arm over her eyes. Gasping, Bianca lurched forward, glancing around the resort. How could you even imagine such a thing? Jobin loves you so much, it even makes me jealous. Swiping her long braids off her shoulders, the bronze beads glistened in the sun. I know, but when I was cleaning his office, I answered a call from a strip mall about some office he wanted to rent. I don't know why he would want to rent one, much less in that part of town. Haley huffed. I don't know how to ask him. I'm sure he's just doing like some outreach thing as a senator or something. The election is coming up, and poor people vote for those who think they care about them, Bianca said, shrugging as she ate the pineapple off the toothpick, sticking out of the hurricane glass. Hey, hey, she shouted, snapping her fingers and pointing to the empty glass. So, you think I shouldn't go by the office front to see? Ew, no. What if you get mugged? I'm sure your wedding ring cost as much as the building. That brings me to question number 2. You don't clean. What were you looking for? Arching a dark eyebrow, Bianca's face lit up with mischief. Squealing, Haley flipped on her back, kicking her feet in the air. My birthday is next month. I wanted to see what he got me, and I didn't find anything, though, so I got super bummed. Ah, that's why you needed the last-minute girls' trip to Bora Bora. Bianca giggled, taking the drink from the server. My friend is thirsty, too. Can't you tell it's hot out here? Scoffing, she waved him away. I swear, the help has gone downhill. So, I'm hoping, with me taking a mental health week, he'll have the time to shop. Grinning wide, she sat up, crossing her long, tawny legs. Maybe I should have dropped some hints to the driver before I left. Well, it's our last night here. Let's hope he had time to shop. He'd better have. He had time to go see an office downtown. I wonder if the windows are all boarded up and yucky, Haley inquired, bouncing excitedly in her seat when the waiter came into view with a large frozen drink. Thanks, Jorge. Stilling, he bent down into a curt bow. The name tag on his white shirt read Ricky in large black letters. My pleasure. Do you want to go get some lunch? Bianca asked. That'll ruin my buzz, Haley said, waggling her eyebrows as she took a huge gulp from her glass. You are so bad, Bianca said, laughing, gently smacking her friend on the thigh. The peak of Mount Shasta was visible from the plane window. The sunset painted a beautiful mural behind the great snow-capped mountain. As many times as Haley had seen this view, its beauty always set her soul on fire. Nudging her arm, Bianca wiggled in her seat. Take a selfie with me, Hales. This skyline is to die for. Turning to lean against the window, the girls put on their best whimsical faces. The shutter clicked no less than 15 times. It's perfect, she squealed. Is it okay if I post it on Insta? Of course. It would be a crime not to. I mean, look at us. Turning back to the window, she watched the mountain as they flew towards the airport. Shuffling off the plane, Haley looked around, craning her neck. I don't see Preston. Do you, B? You have got to be fucking kidding me, she said breathlessly. Following her gaze across the airport, a wide smile broke across her face. Giggling, a pink hue crept up her cheeks. There was Senator Polikoff, standing in a suit under a balloon arch. The red glittered balloons made up a huge heart archway. He held a small handwritten sign that read Haley Polikoff, as if she could have missed him. Tabloid workers were snapping pictures left and right as she walked up to him. Mrs. Polikoff, he said, his deep timbre sending sparks into her chest. Giggling, she jumped into his arms. Senator, it is so lovely to see you. So jealous, I feel sick, Bianca said, walking by. Roman, her driver, waited sheepishly behind Jobin, snapping a pic of the scene. I'm telling Ashlyn he has to step up his game. Her heels clipped the airport floor as she walked past Roman. Whistling, she beckoned him with 2 fingers of her perfectly manicured hand. What's on the agenda tonight? Haley asked, interlocking their fingers and leaning into his arm. Well, I thought I could take my beautiful wife out to dinner. Ooh, I like that plan, she said, feeling guilty about the thought that had even crossed her mind about him cheating. Sure, men did it all the time, but not her Joby. He was a man among men. The automatic door slid open. His black BMW sat idling on the curbside. Opening the passenger door for her, Haley slid into the leather seat. He leaned in for a kiss before he closed the door with a soft click. The restaurant was empty, save for the waiter and them. Haley glanced around, raising an eyebrow at Joby. What? I made a reservation, he said, shrugging. How many did you reserve? She said, making air quotes. One big one, technically. Joby laughed. Kissing her hand, he pulled her seat out. Seating himself across from her, he leaned into the table. He crossed his arms, his brown eyes staring into the depths of her jade ones. What? She asked, giggling, the pink hue spreading across the apple of her cheeks. You have robbed me of your beauty for a whole week. I think I get to look a little longer tonight, he said, flashing his pearly whites. Smiling widely, she struck a pose. He laughed loudly and winked at her. I really did miss that sound, Haley said. A soft purr rhythmically beat under the table. A shadow of annoyance ghosted over his features. Glancing down at his watch, he sighed in frustration. I'll be back, my love. I have to take this. Kissing her hair, he walked to the entrance. Pulling her phone from her purse, she scrolled to Queen Bee, fingers flying over the keyboard as she watched for his return. He just left the table to answer a call. Is that a bad sign or a present? She texted. Within moments, ting, came a reply. Oh, girl, with that pickup, I'm sure it's a gift. Maybe he got you an island. Tapping her almond nail on the screen, she chewed on the inside of her cheek. Hearing his dress shoes clip on the marble floor, she stashed her phone. Well, darling, I have bad news. I have something that I have to take care of tonight. Pouting, Haley deflated, sinking into her chair. Oh, it must be super important, huh? In a perfect world, I could revolve around my little son day and night. Sadly, as a senator, that world is denied to me. I'll make it up to you, I promise. I'll send Preston to pick you up in the car. Just try to enjoy dinner, yeah? He kissed her and hurried off in the direction he came from. Removing her phone from her purse, she sent another quick text. Must be a fabulous gift. He just bailed on dinner. Have you eaten yet? Ting, came the reply. I would love to meet you, but I'm punishing Ashlyn for his lackluster greeting. Oh, enjoy, Queen. You deserve it, she texted, putting her phone face down. Pushing her salad around her plate, Haley sighed. Her phone vibrated against the table. Glancing down at the screen, the text read, Driver. I'm here when you're finished with dinner, Miss Polikoff. Drumming her fingers on the screen again, she scooted back from the table. Her stiletto heels clipped with each step as if drumming her disappointment across the floor. Preston held the door open for her as she exited the building. Getting into the driver's seat, he glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Would you like to stop by the Caramel Apple? It's on the way home, madam, he said, putting the car to drive. I'm not 16 anymore, Preston. Ice cream doesn't make me happy. It makes me bloated, she said, rolling her eyes. Huffing, she dropped her head into her hands. Yes, of course, madam. Pulling into the street, he kept his eyes glued to the road for the remainder of the trip back to Polikoff Manor. Pulling into the large brick turnaround driveway, Preston pulled up to the curve. Opening the door, he had one leg out when he heard the back door close. He watched Haley walk up to the manor. Running up the staircase, she kicked her 4-inch heels off in the closet. Stripping out of her dress, she collapsed onto the bed. Her black matching bra and panties left little to the imagination. Burying her face into the pillow, she drifted into a restless sleep. The mattress beside her sank down, and fingers slowly walked up her back. Haley opened her eyes. Looking at Joby side-eyed, she growled, What time is it? Looking at his watch, he laughed. It's half past 11. Where did you go? She asked, rolling over to her side. The office. Stupid emergencies. Oh, I called the office and Clark said you weren't in. Must have just missed me, he mused. Go back to sleep, darling, it's late. Pulling the covers up to her shoulders, the mattress shifted as he stood up. I'll be in my office if you need me, little son. Snuggling back into the thick comforter, she drifted into a deep sleep. The sun peeked out through the curtains. Mumbling to herself, she stretched her arm out, patting the ground, the cold, empty bed. Pouting, she sat up, looking around the suite. The bathroom door was open, but it was just as empty as her bed. Padding down the hallway, she knocked on his office door. No answer greeted her. Pushing the door open, she peeked inside. His office was neat, with no paper out of place. Closing the door again, she leaned against it, sighing. Pulling on her leggings, she stepped into her sneakers. As she walked past the kitchen, Preston was sitting at the table drinking coffee. Good morning, madam. Is there somewhere that I can take you? He asked, standing. I'm going to yoga. I'll drive myself. She called over her shoulder. Haley wasn't a fan of driving, but this insanity wasn't something she wanted Preston to see. Pulling out of the manor, she drove to Joby's office. Whipping into the parking spot, she rushed up the steps, slowing her pace to stop, and smiling and greeted the people as she passed. Clark looked up from the desk, looking a little puzzled. Good morning, Haley. The senator isn't in this morning, Clark said. Masking her surprise, she breezed past him. I know. I was just dropping off something on my way to yoga. No biggie. Pushing the door open, she slipped in. Closing the door behind her, sitting in his black office chair, she spun in a circle, looking up at the ceiling. Stopping her orbit, she pulled her phone out, tapping it with her nails, sat it on the desk, and spun again. This is fucking stupid. I should just call him. Unlocking her phone, she punched the call button and waited for an answer. Hey, Bunny, how'd you sleep? I slept pretty well. I didn't hear you leave. Yeah, I had a lot of paperwork at the office to take care of. You know, election year is coming fast. Oh, you're already at the office? She inquired, leaning her elbows on his desk. Work never stops, huh? Oh, hold on. Yes, Clark. Honey, there's somebody I have to meet with. Let me call you back. Can I pick you up for lunch? That's okay. I'm going to yoga, she said softly, tears sliding down her face. With a soft click, she placed her phone on the desk, face down. Life was funny like that sometimes. She knew what she knew about her marriage, but the evidence piling up, looking her in the face, made her waver. Googling the address of the strip mall on her phone, she called the owner. A sick cloud swirled in her gut. Joby would be so hurt if he knew what she was doing, but damn it, she hurt too. Sitting in his office while he lied was not like him. This was more than a birthday magic. Something was really wrong here. Why couldn't he tell her? That made the hurt worse. Hello? The old voice croaked over the speaker. If a frog smoked for 60 years, Haley mused. That is what it would sound like. Yes, hello. You rented an office to my husband, Jobin Polikov. He asked me to get a spare key. I have some papers I need to drop off to him. Well, good morning, Miss Polikov. I would love to meet you. However, I'm in Germantown for the morning, she croaked. That is no problem. I am at his office now. I can meet you if you're free. Twirling a long strand of blonde hair around her fingers, she held her breath, awaiting a response. I'm at the Haus de Reibekuchens. The spare key will cost you. Of course. I'll bring... Searching in her wallet, she grimaced. $100. Will that cover it? I can get more cash. Jesus, lady, it's a key, not another office. $25 is plenty. Right, of course. I will see you shortly. Exiting the office, she was half hoping to see Joby talking to Clark. Maybe he was on his way in. Sadly, the young man was slumped over with his head in his hand, playing a computer card game. Sprinting across the street, she programmed her GPS. It was a 20-minute drive to Germantown. Northern California had a lot of cold, rainy days, but today it had the gall of being bright and sunny, not the weather she would pick for heartache. The restaurant featured a large plastic stack of potato cakes on the roof. The small parking lot was filled with cars. Parking across the street, she took a deep breath, clenching her fist on the wheel. This is it, Haley. Once you get the key, you can't go back. You're the crazy wife now. even if Joby doesn't find out. And now I'm talking to myself. I really have lost it, she said, sliding out of the car. Jogging across the street, the bell on the door chimed when she pulled it open. The short, round lady sitting at the desk offered a lopsided grin. Good morning, Miss Polikoff. You were close by. The melted frog appearance really fit the voice. Hi, it's nice to meet you. Pulling the money from her purse, the woman waved her hand away, leading her over to a table. Sit. You have to try the Reibekuchens while you're here, she said. I'll get the key. A waiter came by, dropping off a plate of cakes, each one with different toppings. Haley's stomach growled loudly. The woman looked back at her, laughing. I knew you were hungry. Haley took a bite out of each of the cakes. Wiping her mouth with a napkin, the short woman waddled back through the curtain. You liked the cakes? They were delicious. I'll have to bring Jobin back to try them. Smiling sweetly, she took the key. Trying again to hand the lady her money, she softly shook her head. The senator coming here will be very good for business. You keep your money. Shuffling away, she went to greet another customer standing by the door. Dropping the $100 bill on the table, Haley slipped out. The strip mall was an hour away on 86th Street. That part of town was rough, but hopefully at this time in the morning, the drunks were still in a stupor. People don't get robbed in the daytime, right? She mused. Stopping the car a block away, she parked in an abandoned lot. The windows were boarded up with "Do Not Enter" spray painted across the front. Gulping, she clicked open her pepper spray, holding the finger on the trigger in her pocket. If the car was gone when I get back, I'll just call Preston to get me, she thought, locking the doors twice. Following her GPS, the little circle edged closer to the address. Gasping in horror, she saw Jobin's BMW parked on the curb. The car behind it had a pink plate that read Queen Bee. You have to be kidding me, she breathed in a whisper. The windows weren't boarded up, but they were painted black. Straining to hear anything, she listened against the glass. All she could hear was her own heart beating in her ears. Rolling the silver key around in her pocket, Haley shakily put it in the lock. If the road to hell is paved with good intentions, where is this going to lead me? She thought. Holding her breath, she clicked the latch open. Opening the door an inch, she looked around. It was empty. Sneaking in the door, she shut it behind her. The small building front room was completely empty. Behind the counter, a single door loomed on the far wall. Behind the dull wood, all of the dark secrets were housed. The hallway led downstairs. Cobwebs coated the ceiling in the distance. She heard murmurs. Steeling her spine, she crept down the stairs. Stacks of wooden crates blocked her view. Inching around them, Haley's screams echoed off the walls. A shadow raced across the cracked concrete floor, wrapping Haley up like an enormous snake. She was lifted from the floor. The dark, shadowy vine covered her mouth. All of the sounds got lost in the void. A voice came from the darkness that sounded like a demonic chorus. Rats, rats, rats. Oh, look how pretty. The person in the black robe turns toward them. Their face was obstructed. The gilded mask had no eye holes. The ram's head was covered in gold. The eyes had huge moonstones in each socket. The blood ran in ominous rivers down its snout. Two curled horns sprouted on either side of their head. A strange double cross with an infinity symbol was painted in gold, and black wax dripped on the horns. Tears streamed down her face. Wiggling against the shadow's hold, her heartbeat pounded in her ears. The floor had black candles set up on an altar. An image she couldn't make out was painted onto the floor. The robed man took a step forward towards them, pausing mid-step, raising a hand. Sharp metal claws glinted in the candlelight. Removing his mask, Jobin's eyes were wide as he looked at Haley dangling by the shadow. The fear in her green eyes was something he had never seen before. He would never forgive himself for being the reason it was there now. Put her down, Zozo, Joby said, rushing forward. Sinister laughter rang from the shadow, almost as if three people were laughing at once. Dropping her into the floor, she landed in a crumble. The shadow spread into multiple forms. Be careful how you speak to me, human. Remember what it was like before me. Jobin fell onto the floor. Clutching his stomach, he vomited blood on the ground. The shadow swayed to the rhythm of his scream. Music to my ears. The shadow purred, wrapping itself around Jobin. Haley was frozen in place, shaking as she watched the scene in horror. Jobin fought to get into child's pose. I'm sorry, he screamed, pushing his face into the floor. Please make it stop. The pain in his stomach died down. Panting, he lay on the ground, sweat covering his brows. Baby, why did you come here? You were never meant to see this. Crawling over to her, he pushed the hair from her face. Her jade eyes were blank when he turned her chin to meet his gaze. What is happening here? What is that? Why are you wearing that? Haley said robotically, looking past him to the shadow that writhed in the corner of the room. Look at me, little son. Please look at me, he said. Her eyes tracked over to his face, gaze finally meeting his. The blood was drying on his chin. The copper smell filled her senses. 2 years ago, the doctor told me I had stomach cancer. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered, fresh tears cleaning a path in the dirt on her face. I'm getting to that. I didn't want to worry you. I was going to fight it. We could go on being happy. But after the chemo and the treatments, I got worse. Bunny, they told me I was going to die, that I only had 2 or 3 months left, that I had mets to my liver and lungs. I couldn't go yet. I just couldn't. I wasn't done loving you. Sobs erupted from his chest. He pulled her into a hug, crying into her hair. There are spaces on your skin I haven't kissed yet, jokes I haven't told you, a smile I haven't wrung from your lips. So I called someone to help. I'm living on borrowed time. I have to take it from other people, steal their fire to keep my flame going. The shadow shot out of the corner, wrapping around them, revealing several eyes glowing from beneath the blackness. Yes, twin flames they are. You may consume her fire and live a full life. Yes. The shadow clawed talons, wriggled around her face. No, I could never hurt her. She was my reason to be, the reason I called, Jobin said, stroking her hair. Pushing back, she looked up at the shadow. How is this possible? Bad things don't happen during the day. I thought magic only worked at night. Her small voice was barely audible. Cackling, the shadow swooped in a circle. Humans are silly, yes. You can't cast a shadow without the light. Yes. Landing in the far corner, Bianca walked out of the darkness. Haley's mouth fell open. But how? We grew up together. Stammering, Haley pointed at her, flicking her long braids over her shoulder. A familiar laugh floated through the breeze. Since the glow-up of 93. Jobin, it is time. Standing, Jobin righted his robes. Walking to the center of the room, he kneeled on the altar. Attaching the mask to his face, he waited, palms up. The shadow pulled a small form, floating it above Jobin. The child wiggled, suspended by a dark vine. A long, shadowy claw floated out of the darkness, cutting the child's chest to his belly button. The blood cascaded over Jobin's dark robes. The dark hand reached into the boy's chest, pulling forth a glowing silver light. The shimmering blob pulsated like a heartbeat. Bianca touched the silver liquid to the mask Jobin wore. With a sizzling sound, the light disappeared, the gold symbols upon it glowing. The small child peeled away in layers, starting at his crown. His skin bubbled up and gave way. The muscle wrapping around the bone plopped onto the floor, smoking, leaving little piles of ember in its stead. The bones began to crumble, raining down over Jobin, the blood soaking up the ash. Oh, that always makes me purr. I'm out. You humans have fun. Jobin, I'll see you next week. Don't wait so long to pick another soul. You almost ran out of time this week. Stalking past the crumpled Haley hiding behind the crates, Bianca ran up the steps. The door swung shut behind her. Standing, Jobin removed his mask, walking towards her, but Haley shrank away in terror. Haley, we need to talk about this. Dropping his robe on the crate, he knelt in front of her. Please, just try to understand. I didn't want to leave you. How many? How many kids have you killed? She asked, eyes glued to the ashes dotting the floor. That was 72, he said, holding her hand. But now that you know, I don't have to sneak around anymore. I can tell you everything. Tear-stained eyes meeting his, Haley peered into the depths of his soul, looking for a sign. I don't know what to say. I am so confused. It's just something I have to do so we can keep having a life together. I'll stop as soon as you're not on this earth with me anymore. The cancer is so advanced, I'll be dead in weeks. You don't know what it's like to live in that kind of pain. Dilaudid was like aspirin. Nothing helped. I was so desperate. It came to me in a dream to use the Ouija board to call for help. I knew the bargain wasn't going to be easy, but anything was better than leaving you alone for 40 or so years. I have to bring another kid here next week. This seems wrong. Those poor kids never had a chance. Their parents are on their way to overdose. The system is no place for a child to thrive. What if I make you a deal? What's that? He asked, arching an eyebrow. We started adopting children to give them a chance, Haley said, squeezing his hand. I just don't want to live without you. Done. We can adopt as many as you want, he said, pulling her into a hug. Pulling her up to her feet, he walked up the stairs. Are you going to be okay to drive home? Do you want me to call Preston? He asked, worry marring his features. I'm okay. I'm going to drive around for a while and clear my head. I'll see you at home. Leaning in for a kiss, she trotted down the sidewalk. The bright sun has since retreated behind dark clouds, her silver BMW still parked at the run-down building. Sighing in relief, she got into her car and locked the doors. Haley looked into the rearview mirror. Taking a deep breath, she put the car in drive and pulled out into the empty road. The old building zipped by. A clash of thunder boomed. Lightning broke through the blackness, spreading across the sky. Pulling over to the curb, Haley saw a child playing with a deflated volleyball. Rolling down her blackout window, she called out, Hey kid, it's starting to storm pretty bad. Do you need a ride home? The little girl lit up, covering her hair with the ball. She ran over to the car. The rain beat down on her, drenching her purple dress. Smiling sweetly, Haley unlocked the doors. Hopping in, the girl dutifully clicked on her seatbelt as Haley pulled away from the curb. So I guess all really is fair in love. Until next time, happy hauntings.